Namaskara, my dear friend. In this world, we have created boundaries, not just physical, but mental, emotional, and societal. We have drawn lines around what a woman should be, how she should live, and whom she should belong to. But tell me, does life belong to anyone? Does the wind ask permission before it blows? Does the river seek approval before it flows? Then why should a woman be bound by ideas that were created not by existence but by human minds? A woman who walks alone, with no husband, no traditional family structure, is often looked at with suspicion, with pity, sometimes even with fear. Why? Because she is not fitting into the mold that has been cast for her. But let me tell you this, when a woman walks alone, she is not lonely, she is free, she is not incomplete, she is whole. A woman who dares to walk alone is not a tragedy, she is a force, a presence. She has chosen her path not because she was left behind, but because she has seen something beyond what the world offers as security. Society fears such a woman not because she is weak, but because she is beyond control. But the question is not about man or woman. The real question is, are you truly alive? Have you touched life in its full depth, whether alone or in the company of others? Have you experienced the vastness of existence? If not, then what does it matter who walks with you? If you see a woman walking alone, do not ask, where is her husband? Ask instead, where is her spirit leading her? Because a woman who walks alone is not lost, she is simply on a journey that many do not have the courage to take. The only companionship she truly needs is the presence of life itself. From the moment a girl is born, society begins drawing invisible lines around her. These lines dictate how she should speak, how she should behave, and ultimately what her life should look like. She is taught that her worth is tied to her ability to nurture, to serve, and to eventually belong to someone else. The idea that she must follow a predefined path, education, marriage, motherhood, is not just an expectation but an unspoken rule. But if we truly look at life, we will see that these boundaries are not real. They exist only in the minds of people who fear what they do not understand. A woman is not born to fit into a mold, she is born to live, to experience and to explore the vastness of existence. These boundaries are not just cultural, they are deeply ingrained psychological barriers that prevent women from realizing their full potential. From childhood, she is conditioned to believe that security comes from being protected by a father, a husband, or a son. But is security something that can be given, or is it something that must be found within? If security was truly found in another person, then why do so many women, despite being surrounded by family, feel caged, unheard, or unfulfilled? The reality is real security comes from knowing oneself, from standing strong in one's own presence, without needing validation from another. The world has always resisted those who dare to step beyond the lines. When a woman chooses to walk alone, she is not just making a personal choice. She is challenging centuries of conditioning. She is showing that a woman does not need to be bound by relationships to have value. She does not need a husband to complete her or a family to define her. She is enough by herself. This defiance unsettles people because it threatens the very foundation of what they have been taught to believe. They would rather see a woman unhappy within the walls of tradition than see her thriving in the unknown. But tell me, who decides what a woman should or should not do? Are these rules written by existence, or have they simply been imposed by human minds that fear change? If we look at nature, does a tree ask permission before growing in its own way? Does a river follow only the path that is expected of it? No, life flows where it must, and so should a woman. Her journey, her choices, and her path should be determined by her own spirit, not by the fears and expectations of others. The moment she realizes this, the boundaries begin to dissolve, not in the world but within her own mind. The breaking of boundaries is not about rebellion, it is about realization. A woman who walks alone is not rejecting the world, she is simply refusing to be confined by its limitations. When she understands that she is not defined by her relationships but by her own presence, she steps into a different kind of existence. This existence is not dependent on approval, not confined by rules, and not dictated by society's expectations. It is vast, open, and limitless, just like life itself. In nature, nothing truly belongs to anyone. The sun does not belong to the sky, nor does the river belong to the land it flows through. A bird does not ask permission before it flies, nor does a tree seek approval before it spreads its roots. Everything in existence simply is unbound, untamed, and flowing according to its own nature. Yet when it comes to human beings, we have created the illusion of ownership, especially over women. A woman is often told that she belongs to her father until she is given to her husband, and later she belongs to her children. But tell me, does life belong to anyone? If existence itself is free, why should a woman be any different? This idea of ownership is not just a social construct. It is a deeply ingrained belief system that has controlled women for centuries. A woman's identity has often been tied to her relationship with others rather than her own existence. She is seen as a daughter, a wife, a mother, but rarely as an individual in her own right. This is why when a woman chooses to walk alone, society struggles to understand her. People ask, whose daughter is she, whose wife is she, but no one asks, who is she? This is the tragedy of human thinking. We fail to see a woman as an independent being, as if she cannot simply exist without being attached to someone else. If we observe the natural world, we will see that everything in life functions effortlessly, without ownership. The wind does not belong to any one place. It moves freely, touching everything, yet remaining unattached. The waves belong neither to the ocean nor to the shore, they simply rise and fall as they must. A woman who walks alone is like the wind, like the waves, moving as life moves, flowing where she needs to flow. She does not need to belong to anyone to have purpose. Her existence is her own, just as the existence of the sky, the mountains, and the stars is their own. But society fears this kind of freedom. It does not like what it cannot control. When a woman refuses to be owned, she is seen as a disruption, as someone who does not fit into the neatly crafted structure of ownership and belonging. People start to question her, to doubt her choices, not because she is wrong, but because her very existence challenges their beliefs. They would rather believe that she is lost than accept that she is free. They would rather call her incomplete than acknowledge that she is whole. This is not about the woman, it is about their own inability to see beyond the illusions they have been conditioned to believe. A woman who understands that she does not need to belong to anyone becomes untouchable in the truest sense, not in the way the world defines it, but in a way that is beyond external influence. She is not swayed by opinions, not burdened by expectations, and not limited by roles that others try to impose on her. She exists not for someone else's comfort, not for tradition's approval, but for the simple reason that she is alive. And life in its purest form knows no ownership. It only knows existence. Society has always been uncomfortable with those who do not fit into its expectations, and when a woman chooses to walk alone, she is met with suspicion, pity, or even fear. People ask, why is she alone? What went wrong in her life? Did no one choose her, or did she refuse to be chosen? These questions do not arise out of genuine concern, but from a deep-seated belief that a woman must always be attached to someone, that her existence is incomplete without a husband, a family, or a defined role in society. But why is it so difficult to accept that a woman can walk alone by choice? Why is independence seen as a misfortune rather than a strength? From childhood, women are conditioned to believe that their ultimate purpose is to be part of a unit, to be a wife, a mother, or a caretaker. They are rarely encouraged to see themselves as individuals first. So when a woman steps outside of these expectations, people react with discomfort. If she is single, they assume she must be sad. If she is without children, they assume she must be unfulfilled. If she walks alone, they assume she must be lost. But none of these assumptions are about the woman herself. They are reflections of a society that does not know how to see a woman as whole unless she fits within a prescribed role. This stigma is not just an external force, it seeps into the minds of women themselves. Many women, even when they crave freedom, hesitate to step beyond societal expectations because they fear the judgment that will follow. They fear the whispers, the looks of pity, and the constant questioning of their choices. It is not easy to walk alone when the world keeps telling you that you are supposed to belong to someone. This fear keeps many from living fully, from embracing their own journey, and from realizing that their life is not a problem that needs to be solved. It is an experience that needs to be lived. Yet, if we look at history, the most powerful, wise, and transformative women have always been the ones who dared to walk alone. They did not wait for permission. They did not seek approval. And though they faced resistance, they carved their own paths, not because they wanted to be rebellious, but because they had something greater to seek. But society rarely celebrates such women while they are alive. It only honors them after they have struggled, after they have proven their worth, as if a woman must endure suffering before she is allowed to be respected for her strength. The truth is, the stigma of walking alone has nothing to do with the woman herself. It exists because her independence forces others to question their own limitations. If a woman can be complete on her own, then what does that say about the structures built around dependency? If a woman does not need validation, then why have so many people spent their lives chasing it? Her existence becomes a mirror reflecting truths that many would rather not face. And so they label her as someone to be pitied, feared, or misunderstood, not because she is lacking, but because she is free in a way that most people will never dare to be. One of the greatest illusions society has created is the belief that a woman is incomplete unless she is attached to someone. From childhood, she is made to feel that she is only a part of something. Never a whole by herself. She is told that she will find completeness in a husband, in children, or in family responsibilities. But tell me, if a woman is born as a full human being, how does she suddenly become incomplete just because she chooses to walk alone? Who decided that her wholeness depends on someone else's presence? If we truly observe life, we will see that nothing in existence is incomplete. A tree does not wait for another tree to complete it. The sun does not need the moon to shine. Every part of creation exists in its own fullness, just as a woman does. This idea of incompleteness is not just a belief, it is a form of control. If you convince someone that they are not whole by themselves, you make them dependent. A woman who believes she is incomplete will keep seeking validation, approval, and a sense of worth from others. She will fear being alone, not because she actually lacks something, but because she has been conditioned to believe that loneliness is a weakness rather than a space of self-discovery. But let us ask a simple question. If a woman cannot be at peace with herself, if she cannot feel whole in her own presence, then how can she ever find true peace in the company of another? If two incomplete people come together, can they ever create something whole? The truth is, a woman who understands her wholeness becomes untouchable, not in the sense that she is distant from love or relationships, but in the sense that she no longer needs them to define her. If she chooses companionship, it is not because she is empty, but because she wants to share her fullness with another. If she decides to walk alone, it is not because she has been rejected by life, but because she has embraced life in a way that most people do not dare to. This kind of wholeness is rare, not because it is difficult to attain, but because society does everything in its power to convince women that they should not seek it. But tell me, who truly suffers from a woman's completeness? Not the woman herself, but those who built their power upon her dependency. A woman who knows she is whole cannot be manipulated by fear. She does not stay in situations that do not honor her. She does not shrink herself to fit into roles that do not serve her spirit. And this terrifies the world, because a free woman, a whole woman, is beyond control. She is no longer an obedient servant to expectations. She is an untamed force of life itself. And the world has never known what to do with a woman who does not ask for permission to exist in her own fullness. When a woman realizes that she is already whole, something within her shifts. She stops waiting, she stops seeking, she no longer measures her worth by external standards. Instead, she becomes deeply rooted in her own existence. She moves not out of fear, but out of inner clarity. Whether she walks alone or with others, she remains the same, unshaken,
From the moment a woman is
unafraid,
born,
and
she is
placed
undeniably
within an
complete.
invisible cage.
When a
One
woman
built not
reaches
of
this
iron,
space
but of
the world
expectations,
may still not
she is
understand
taught that
her.
her highest duty is to conform, to adjust, to fit into roles that have already been decided for her. Her choices are shaped by questions like, what will people think? And will this bring honor to the family? She is rarely asked, what do you truly want? Because her desires, her dreams, and her individuality have never been the priority. A woman who follows the path laid out for her is praised, while a woman who dares to step outside of it is questioned, judged, or even feared. But tell me, is life meant to be lived as an act of obedience or as an exploration of one's true nature? Conformity is comfortable. It keeps people within familiar structures. But freedom is unsettling because it threatens everything that has been built on control. A woman who chooses freedom over conformity is seen as a problem because she refuses to be shaped by rules that do not serve her. She does not seek approval before making decisions, and she does not wait for permission to exist as she is. This disturbs people not because she is wrong, but because she forces them to confront a reality they would rather ignore, that life can be lived differently, that a woman can be whole without belonging to anyone, and that happiness does not come from fitting in but from being true to oneself. The world has always tried to make women believe that conformity is the safer path. Follow the rules and you will be taken care of. But if this were true, why do so many women who have followed the rules still feel trapped? Why do they find themselves lost in roles that were meant to give them security? The reality is, safety does not come from conformity, it comes from inner strength. A woman who chooses freedom over conformity does not live in fear of what society will say. She does not seek shelter in the approval of others because she has built her own foundation. She knows that true security is not found in obeying the word but in trusting herself. But freedom is not easy. The path of a free woman is filled with challenges because the world does not easily accept what it cannot control. She will be called selfish for choosing herself. She will be labeled difficult for refusing to bend. She will be told she is lost, when in truth, she is the only one who has found her way. But what is the alternative? To live a life dictated by others? To suppress one's own spirit for the sake of tradition? No. A woman who has tasted freedom can never go back to conformity because she knows that real life begins where fear ends. When a woman chooses freedom, she does not reject love, family, or relationships. She simply refuses to let them define her. If she loves from a place of strength, not dependency. If she walks alone, it is not because she has been abandoned, but because she has chosen a path that few have the courage to take. The world may never stop trying to make her conform, but she no longer listens. Because a woman who has embraced her freedom is no longer seeking acceptance. She is simply living as she was always meant to be. A woman who walks alone, unbound by traditional roles, is not feared because she is weak. She is feared because she is beyond control. For centuries, societies have functioned by placing women within carefully defined roles, ensuring that they remain dependent on family, marriage, and social expectations. A woman who follows the expected path is predictable, manageable, and easy to control. But when a woman steps outside of this system, when she declares that she does not need to be owned or directed, she becomes an unknown force, one that cannot be tamed. And what people cannot control, they try to silence, shame, or suppress. Control over women has always been disguised as care. She is told, "We only want what is best for you." But what this really means is, "We want you to follow the path we have chosen for you." She is warned that stepping beyond societal norms will lead to loneliness and suffering, but no one questions the suffering that exists within those norms themselves. How many women have spent their lives feeling trapped, unheard, and unfulfilled simply because they were afraid to break free? Control thrives on fear. Fear of judgment, fear of abandonment, and fear of stepping into the unknown. But the moment a woman realizes that these fears are only illusions, she can no longer be controlled. A woman beyond control does not mean a woman without love or relationships. It means she engages with life on her own terms. She may choose companionship, but not out of need, out of choice. She may participate in society, but not at the cost of her own truth. This kind of woman unsettles people because she does not play by the rules they have come to expect. They cannot manipulate her with guilt, nor can they force her into roles she does not wish to play. And so they label her as rebellious, difficult, or even dangerous, not because she is any of these things, but because she has stepped outside the boundaries of control. But tell me, is it truly a woman's strength that people fear? Or is it their own weakness that is exposed in her presence? When a woman refuses to be controlled, she forces those around her to question their own choices. She becomes a mirror, reflecting the fears and limitations that others have accepted as normal. Her freedom reminds them of the chains they have chosen to wear. And instead of breaking free themselves, many would rather try to pull her back, to convince her that she is wrong, simply so they do not have to face the truth of their own conditioned existence. The woman who is beyond control does not seek to fight against the world, nor does she try to prove herself to anyone. She simply moves through life with an inner authority that does not waver in the face of judgment. She does not ask for permission to exist as she is, and she does not wait for approval before making her choices. And though the world may resist her, though people may try to break her spirit, she remains untouched. Not because she is hardened, but because she has seen through the illusion of control itself. A woman who walks alone does not rely on external validation to shape her identity. Her strength does not come from the approval of others, nor does her confidence depend on whether she is accepted by society. It comes from within, a place that cannot be touched by praise or criticism. She has realized that true power is not about controlling others or being controlled by them, but about mastering herself. This kind of inner strength is rare, not because it is impossible to attain, but because most people never dare to seek it. They are too busy looking outward, searching for belonging, while she has turned inward and discovered that she already belongs to herself. But this journey is not without its struggles. A woman who chooses the path of inner strength must face many challenges, both within herself and from the world around her. Society will test her, throwing doubts and fears in her way, hoping that she will stumble and return to the safety of conformity. She will hear voices telling her that she is too bold, too independent, too much. She will be questioned for her choices, judged for her freedom, and warned about the consequences of her defiance. But she does not walk this path for the approval of others. She walks it because she has no other choice. Because once she has seen the truth of her own power, she can never go back to living in weakness. Inner strength is not about being untouched by pain or struggle. It is about facing those challenges and emerging even stronger. The woman who walks alone does not avoid hardships. She embraces it, knowing that every obstacle is a lesson, every difficulty a teacher. She does not seek comfort in dependency, nor does she run from silence. She understands that true strength is forged in silence, in stillness, in the moments when she stands alone and faces herself completely. In a world that teaches women to seek security in others, she has learned to find it within herself. And yet, this strength is often misunderstood. People mistake her independence for arrogance, her self-sufficiency for coldness. They believe that a woman who does not seek protection must not need love, that a woman who stands alone must not feel deeply. But tell me, is a tree that stands tall and unshaken by the wind without life? Is a river that carves its own path without purpose? Strength does not mean a lack of feeling. It means knowing oneself so completely that no storm, no judgment, no loss can break the foundation upon which she stands. A woman who walks the path of inner strength does not move against the world, nor does she seek to fight it. She simply moves with the truth of who she is. Whether she is surrounded by people or walking in solitude, whether she is loved or misunderstood, she remains the same, unshaken, unwavering, and at peace. She is not looking for a place to fit in because she has already found her place within herself. And once a woman reaches this state of being, nothing, not rejection, not loneliness, not even the weight of an entire society, can shake her from the path she has chosen. A woman who walks alone is not waiting. She is not waiting for a man to complete her, for society to approve of her, or for the world to make space for her existence. She is not living in anticipation of some future moment where she will finally be seen, accepted, or valued. She is already living fully, deeply, and without hesitation. This is what unsettles people the most. Society has conditioned women to wait for love, for marriage, for children, for the right time, for permission. But what happens when a woman refuses to wait? When she steps forward without seeking approval, she disrupts everything that was built to keep her in place. For centuries, women have been told that patience is their virtue, that if they simply endure, life will reward them. They have been taught to be passive, to let things happen to them rather than create their own path. A girl is raised to believe that one day a man will come and give her life meaning. A wife is told that if she waits long enough, her sacrifices will be acknowledged. A mother is reminded that her role is to serve and nurture, always putting herself second. But a woman who walks alone knows that life is not something to be waited for, it is something to be lived here and now. She does not postpone her happiness, her dreams, or her freedom for some distant future. She takes them as her birthright. And yet, when a woman stops waiting, she is often seen as reckless or impatient. People ask, why is she in such a hurry? Why doesn't she settle down? As if life is a race with a predefined course, as if she is meant to stay in one place until someone else decides her next step. But tell me, who decided that a woman's journey must be dictated by others? Who said she must follow a script written by those who do not even understand her heart? The moment she realizes that no one is coming to grant her permission to live, she becomes unstoppable. She does not need to be chosen. She chooses herself. This does not mean she rejects love, companionship, or relationships. It simply means that she does not pause her life for them. If love comes, it is welcome, but it is not her destination. If companionship finds her, it is cherished, but it is not her reason for existing. She does not spend her days waiting for someone to walk beside her, because she has already learned how to walk alone. And this is what truly terrifies the world, that a woman can be content in her own company, that she can find joy without external validation, that she does not need saving. A woman who is not waiting is a woman who has embraced her own power. She no longer asks, when will life begin? Because she knows it already has. She does not linger in doorways hoping to be invited in. She builds her own doors, opens them herself and walks through them with confidence. And as she moves, she does not look back, wondering if the world understands her. She does not slow down to make others comfortable. She moves forward, not because she is running away from anything, but because she has finally realized that she was never meant to wait. She was meant to live. So let the world watch. Let them question, let them whisper, let them wonder how a woman can walk alone without fear. Let them struggle to understand how she stands unshaken without seeking approval, without waiting for permission. Because the truth is, she is not walking alone. She is walking with herself, and that is enough. She does not need to prove anything to anyone. She does not owe explanations, apologies, or justifications for choosing her own path. She is not incomplete, she is not lost, and she is not waiting for life to begin. She is already living it on her own terms, and that is the greatest power of all. Yes, there will be resistance. Yes, there will be challenges. But no cage can hold a woman who has already set herself free. No judgment can touch a woman who has found her truth. No expectation can weigh down a woman who has decided to rise. So, to the woman who walks alone, walk boldly. Walk with your head high, your heart strong, and your spirit unshaken. The world may not always understand you, but that is not your burden to carry. Your path is yours alone, and every step you take is a declaration that you are here, you are whole, and you are unstoppable.